Yo, guys, what's up, and welcome back to the Marvelous Chats podcast. This is episode 116. Tonight on the cast is myself, Finto, and Alex, aka Zaberwolf. We're going to be talking about episodes 4 and 5 of Loki, episode 7 and the finale of Gen V, and any other nerdy news from the week. If you're new to the channel, make sure you drop a follow. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, leave us a review, follow the channel. If you want to be part of the conversations live, pop over onto our YouTube channel, drop us a subscription over there, and you can join in on the chat live. Without further ado, here we go. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
How are you?
Doing all right. How you been?
I've been good. Feels like it's been a long time. I don't know. It's been a busy 2 weeks for me. So I couldn't do the cast last week. I was at a wedding and I thought I was going to be home early because we have the baby and we were supposed to leave early. But what we were gonna do is we were gonna stay until after the dinner and then like maybe watch their first dance, listen to the speeches, all that stuff, watch the first dance, and then like slip out after the first dance. First dance didn't happen till like 9:30 at night, and I was meant to go live at 10, and we were like an hour outside of Dublin. So by the time we drove back to my parents, picked up the baby, went home, got like everything ready, it was nearly midnight, and I was like, oh, I can't go live now. It's too late. It was way too late.
So speaking of goodbyes, apparently there's like a saying of called an Irish goodbye. Is that actually true?
It is, yeah. So basically, let's say, for example, you're at a work do, everybody's out having drinks. An Irish goodbye would be if you just literally walked out the door and said nothing to nobody, and just like went home. That's an Irish goodbye. It's just like, and usually it's when there's too much drink on board. You kind of know that point where you've had enough booze where you're like, if I drink anymore, I might black out or I might make a fool of myself. So they call it the Irish goodbye. It's like, okay, I've had enough. See you later. And then you purposely don't say anything to anybody so that you don't get stuck saying like goodbyes and all this stuff, or people going, here's another drink, stay for one more, so there's none of that shit. So it's like, see you later, gone.
That's fucking awesome.
So there you go. So next time you're out, do an Irish goodbye for me.
You got it.
Do you know the funny thing though? I'm very social when I'm out. And if I'm out with my friends, I'm out, like I'm out for the night. Like, I don't really drink anymore. So when I do drink, I drink, you know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, I never do the Irish goodbye because I don't want to go home. You know what I mean? If I'm out, I'm out. Like, so I'm staying till the end. Whereas like my missus would be like, oh, let's go. And, she'd want to leave early. So.
Hey, man,
yo, Rob,
like, I get it.
Andre, how are you? Let's go. Appreciate everybody here early. Yeah, like it's it is what it is. If you're into doing the Irish goodbye, go for it. But for me personally, nah.
Well, it's definitely a lot easier, especially for Robert since he's popped in. Like I remember some of the times that we've hung out, and it's like sometimes he's like, "All right, dude, let's go," and he doesn't say anything to anyone. And the reason why is because anytime he says something to his friends, like his other friends,
yeah.
Like they'll go, no, man, like you gotta stick around. There's like some other shit that we're gonna be doing. Like, we'll just like, oh, come on, man, like have one more drink with us, or like when the party is really crazy, like take one more hit, bro. Like take one more.
Yeah. And that's the exact reason why the Irish goodbye exists. Yeah, look, I think we might have a lot to talk about, so I think we should just dive straight in. And do you want to, will we just talk about Loki first?
Yeah, we got to start with the low and end with high.
I like it. The low key and the high key. But yeah, like, so we had this week, we had episodes. Well, sorry, in this episode of the podcast, we have 2 episodes of Loki and the last 2 episodes of Gen V to talk about. So basically, because we weren't live last week and this was recorded on a Sunday, there's been 2 episodes that have aired since we last spoke. So I'm probably going to need a bit of a refresher course on episode 4. I didn't rewatch episode 4 of Loki. When I watched episode 5, I'm not going to lie, it was Friday. I'd finished a very long week in work, so I was very tired. And my girlfriend said that I slipped off into a bit of a coma for a couple of minutes and I missed a few minutes of Loki. Now, to be honest, I went back and rewatched it today. And like, it was a good episode. Like, to be fair, I was just wiped out at the end of the week. Like the end of my work week, I was done. So, I did wake up and I caught the very end of it, but I didn't really know what was going on. Like I saw the first maybe 25 minutes of it and then I kind of nodded off. I think it was when he went to visit Mobius at his house and he saw the jet skis and stuff. I don't know why, but I just fell asleep. I was so tired. But I went back and rewatched it today and it was cool. It was cool. Yeah, I gotta say.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
What did you think of episode 4? I suppose the only thing that I really took from episode 4 was there was the bit where Victor Timely went out and just got erased. I thought that was like kind of unexpected. I was like, whoa, okay, wow, he got erased. I was like, I didn't see that coming. And I've seen some kind of theories. I don't know how true these are. Again, it could be just people theorizing stuff, but I heard some people saying that he did it on purpose because he wanted to be exposed to the timelines to kind of inject himself and create all the variants or something, which kind of sounds cool, but I don't know. At the same time, would they not already exist? Talk to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like it. I got to tell you, man. Just overall, right now, I'm watching with Katie, and we're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
We're not really enjoying any of it. Like it's not. It doesn't feel fun anymore. Like something about it just feels off. Like it just doesn't like. I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that like we've been doing nothing, and we're all out of ideas. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just how it feels. Like everybody's just kind of standing around and talking.
Yeah.
And as much as I'm like okay with that kind of stuff, like I don't think you need to slap a sticker on it and call it Loki. Like this could have easily just been the TVA. It could have been like Marvel's the TVA. And it could have been the TVA trying to work this shit out. And then maybe involve Loki in between, because he could do what he wants every now and then. But like the rules don't seem to apply everywhere, which is kind of like pissing me off. There are moments where Loki and Sylvie can do stuff, and then stuff like moments where Loki and Sylvie can not do stuff.
Yeah.
And then it seems like the writers forget that they can do stuff when they're not in the TVA section. It's like it's not hard to remember. Like they have powers outside of the TVA, and yeah, like it's nice to hear that my best friend is saying the same thing. Like it's a huge letdown. Like it's not. There's nothing going on. Like episode 4, I felt like nothing happened. There was just all of them fucking like arguing with each other or trying to explain things. Ken Hui Kwan, like yeah, he's fine. Like he's a great character. Like he plays great characters. He's got a great voice for things. He can act well. I like the way he acts. I think it's great. But it's not like they're not even utilizing him as much as I want them to. Like I think they should have utilized him a lot more. I think the whole Owen Wilson, Loki, like and Tom Hiddleston thing, like their chemistry is pretty good. So like those three seem to be just fine. But the other characters like B5, or I can't remember if she was B5. I just remember X5. And like we haven't talked to her at all. we haven't said a fucking word to her, like in terms of like Loki and Sylvie and Mobius and Ouroboros. Like they haven't talked to her for shit. Why is she here?
It's really weird, yeah. Like, there's a lot of characters that feel like they're not being used at all. Even Owen Wilson, I feel like Owen Wilson's not really being used this season at all. And I don't know if it's like scheduling conflicts or something, but it just feels like, as you said, a whole lot of nothing is going on. We're just kind of following Tom Hiddleston around the place, and he's kind of like putting pieces together and trying to figure it out, but it's going at a very slow pace. Like if you think the last 2 episodes, like Owen Wilson, to be fair, I love the bits with like the jet skis and stuff. It's great. It's a great kind of throwback to season 1. It's fun. Like, but at the end of the day, like there's not a lot going on. It feels like the whole thing was shot in a day or something. It's just really weird. Like, yeah, it's just very lackluster. Again, it's Marvel kind of just sitting on like sets, like, or maybe they're using the void or something. I don't know what they're doing, but it just feels very cheap. And again, I don't know what the number is, but I'd love to know what the production cost of this series is, because I'd say it's probably something ridiculous as well, which kind of further makes me think that Disney are laundering money somehow through the productions of all their stuff. I mentioned that I was in a tweet, conversation about something else, and I kind of mentioned that, and someone was like, "Oh my god, bro, that's a crazy theory." Like, he's like, that actually makes sense, because I was like, think about a Secret Invasion. Like, most of it was shot in warehouses in the UK, and there was like no kind of like crazy stuff going on, and the thing cost as much as Ant-Man Quantumania. It's like, where did all that money go?
Yeah,
like what's going on?
And it's just it's appalling, dude. Like for everything that we've seen, for everything that we've gone through in terms of all the Marvel movies, like even fucking Miss Marvel had more action than this shit.
Yeah.
Like if you want a bunch of humans talking to each other in a room, you do Agents of Shield, you do like, Agent Carter, you do all that kind of shit where it's just humans. These aren't really considered humans to a certain degree. It's just people that were picked off from the timeline. Like,
Yeah.
can you really consider them like normal humans nowadays? Because like they're part of a bigger scene. It's a much bigger situation than just humans interacting. And I don't think the writers understand that. I think the writers are just like, yeah, the only thing we could do is write about people talking to each other. And it's like, imagine if Iron Man for like half of its movie was just nonstop talking, like nonstop, just introspective perspective, like fucking just always this dialogue and nothing being done. Like imagine if he was working on the suit, but they don't show him working on the suit and they just talk about working on the suit. That's how it feels with Loki season 2 right now. They're just talking about things that should be happening or things that you can do. And it's like that's not what Marvel is, dude. Like Marvel can have moments of dialogue, but it's like there's action scenes, there's things going on. Like you don't read one comic of a Marvel issue or even a DC issue without seeing a fucking action scene.
Yeah. Like even in the latest episodes, like, you know, it was cool watching the whole spaghetti effect of just like timelines disappearing and branches dying and stuff. And then like, you know, Sylvie kind of taking out Kang's controller, just going through the doors and stuff. And it's like, oh, she's like up to some shit for sure. Like, you know,
right.
And that was kind of interesting. But again, it's kind of just like giving us little like drips of stuff, but making us sit through boring shit. And then
exactly.
You know, we're one episode away from the finale, and it's like, you know, we got to save the TVA, we got to do this, we got to do that, and then like everything just disappears, and then he finally figures out how to control his time slipping, and you know, he goes back, obviously. But it's kind of like, you know, how many times is he going to redo this shit? Like, should he not have figured this out much earlier on? And then maybe we could have seen some failed attempts. We could have seen some worlds dying, like more so than just like a coffee shop or whatever it was that Sylvie was sitting in, or like a record store. You know, like it was just it's so cheap, dude, bro.
Dude, do you remember we were talking about this on the first 2 episodes? I said it. I said they should have had Loki use the time slipping powers throughout the whole fucking show.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's so fucking late. It's like they heard me and they're like, oh shit.
Go back.
Well, yeah. Because I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Like I said it in episode 1, you know, it was like, why did they get rid of the powers so quickly? And obviously they obviously had planned to use them again, but yeah, I don't know, it just felt really weird. Like I would have liked, it would have paced a lot better if Loki never lost them, or if he just kind of like was learning to use them throughout the whole show. Yeah. So the slips kept happening. Maybe they started getting more and more spaced out, or they started getting worse. And then, you know, it's like he has to learn to control them. Otherwise, maybe he slips all the way back to the beginning of time or something and erases, or, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so like either make them more severe that he has to learn to control them, or just make them more frequent so that he gets pissed off and has to figure it out. You know, like you can make it work rather than them disappearing for 5 episodes and then just magically coming back. You know, it just felt like, you know, okay, we don't need them for now. Let's pretend they're all gone. And then just like, okay, now it serves the story to have them back. He just magically turns them on again. It's just weird.
It's disappointing, dude, because like, it's just like you and I talked about it earlier. It's like, they could have had this a long time ago. And that's the problem with writing, is that the writers don't understand that if you bring something back from previously, that some of the viewers, if you are not thinking about this correctly, like, then you're literally going to cause the viewers to do exactly what I'm saying or what you're saying, which is basically, why don't you just make that a thing? Why don't you just make time slipping a thing? Like, why can't he just work on controlling it? And like we were both talking about it, and literally it's like, why don't you just control it? Literally, Ken Hoi Kwan's character, Ouroboros, just control it. Yeah, Obi. Yeah. Like fucking, like, seriously, why? Why now?
I know.
Like, at this point, I don't even care. At this point, I'm done. And Sylvie is the fucking worst character I have ever seen in an entire Marvel series now, because she is the most like inconsequential, incompetent, misunderstanding, and just downright rude character.
Yeah, I really dislike her this season.
It-
And like it's like, she's like kind of telling Loki to fuck off and grow up and just, forget about your friends, go home, do whatever, do what you got to do. Like you're on your own, whatever. Just like fobbing them off. And then, she's sitting there at the end and her coffee shop fucking just deletes the whole world that she's on, just gets erased. And then she's
right.
like, oh, okay, now we got to do something. Like, it's like,
Right.
what?
Yeah, she's the most I don't want to do it until I have to character. And it's
Yeah.
and fuck off with that. Every other character is trying to do it. I don't care. Like you should be caring. How much did you care before the explosion happened? And all of a sudden the explosion happens and you're like, who cares? Let's just give up. Fuck off, lady.
Do
Like,
you know what annoyed me as
seriously.
well? Do you know what annoyed me as well? It was like, when she went in, she opened up the door and walked through the door. So obviously, like that world that she was on or that timeline that she was in got erased. And then she obviously shows up to Loki and she says, there's nowhere else to go. So she's obviously hopped around, found out that all the timelines are gone now. Like, if you're gonna spend 200 million making a show, why don't you show us like her hopping around? Even just use like old footage from the first season, like have her hop onto like the old worlds and stuff that we'd seen from the first season, have it all kind of just erase before her eyes, and then she has to keep kind of hopping to escape it, and then she ends up just with Loki, and that's the final stop. Like show us that shit. Don't just have her like pop in 1 second later. It's all gone. Like,
See, and this, but that's why you're not on the writing team, Finto, because that's way too emotional and that's way too important
Yeah.
of scenery to pass up on the fucking one guy who they talked to, who people probably thought was awesome, that had like all the Infinity Stones in his drawer. I don't even remember his fucking name. Like,
I don't either. Obviously, they made him a kind of cool historical character, which was kind of cool, I suppose. And it was kind of like the way they made Loki, DB Cooper in the first. Yeah, that was kind of cool as well. But again, I just don't care. Like, you know what I mean?
Right?
It's like,
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's just meh. It's just so meh.
Well, and that's the thing. Why do they need him? Like, at what point in our time in season 1 and season 2 was he one of the most important characters? At the very least, I understand like B5 a little bit, but like they haven't even talked. Like I said, they haven't even talked to her. So like, so what you're telling me is we need one worker, one security guard, one technician, one upper level, and the person in charge, which is obviously going to be Loki at this point.
I think the point is you remember OB was talking about like the cup with the pens in them. I think it was like when the timelines broke, like when Timely died. I think they're using that as the focal point, and then they want to reestablish or gather up everybody who was in the room at that time to recreate that aura. So I think that's what the point is. Like that's my understanding of it anyway. So I suppose that anyone who was in that room at that time, and that's Loki going around collecting all those people. But sure, now we find out at the very end, it's like it was all kind of pointless until he kind of learns to do a time jump. And again, we're kind of moving into the space of kind of lazy writing, because it's like everything that's happened in the show up to now is kind of irrelevant again, because he's just jumped back to what looks like episode 1 at the very end. So you're kind of just like, oh, okay, so now, we're going to go through. And how long is the last episode going to be? At most 50 minutes. Best case scenario, 50 minutes. So we've got 50 minutes now for him to basically redo the whole story, but do it right and, learn from his mistakes. And it's not going to be enough time. I can already predict we're going to sit here next week and we're just going to be like, yeah, that was okay, but it was too short. And, is it going to tie into Deadpool 3? If we're, that'd be like, I don't know, I'm clutching at straws, hoping for something like that. I was really, really hoping before we came into this season that we were going to get somehow get a look at Chris Hemsworth or something like that. He was going to go back to somehow go back to Asgard or something like that. Like let it link into his past somehow. You know what I mean? Even just do it the way they kind of did it in Endgame, using old, lapping old footage over new, or some, do something like, you know what I mean? Just to try and connect the fucking show to something in Loki's past, because again, I love Owen Wilson's character. Obi's cool. All these guys are, they're fun and all, but it's just not the MCU for me. Like it's its own thing, and it's kind of irrelevant, unless something happens where they open up a door and fucking Deadpool and Wolverine walk out or something like that, and then you're kind of like, oh shit, okay, this is like finally kind of connecting into the movie universe again. And just to kind of like, because again, Rob wrote this in the chat. He's like, I'm kind of over the Disney Plus shows now. Bring back the badass movies, and that's kind of just been. It's a bit in my head. I've been hearing other people saying the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to the Den of Nerds. Like, I'm in his streams all the time, and Josh has been saying like, just cancel all these fucking shows. Let's just go back to basics here. Let's just fucking cancel all these crap shows that are going to just bring the Marvel name down even further, and let's just get back to good writing and good movies. And maybe a couple of like very important shows. Like I think Daredevil, like Rob talks about how he's not even excited for Daredevil and Echo and stuff. Echo, yeah, probably. I think they know it's a failure themselves. I think they've cut like 2 or 3 episodes off the show. They're releasing it all as one. It's been delayed again, so I think they're doing some sort of reshoots or reworks with it. Daredevil again has been completely scrapped, and they're rewriting it from the ground up. They're rewriting Blade from the ground up as well. Like Feige apparently went on. I don't know if you heard the Blade stuff. Did you hear about the Blade stuff?
Oh yeah, it was going to be a garbage shoot.
But like, did you hear what like the script and stuff was about? Like, did you?
Not fully.
Oh my god! So basically, Blade was going to be the 4th lead in his own movie, and it was going to be led by a female who was just like figuring some shit out, all this bollocks of like pandering, like what South Park are ripping the piss out of the Panderverse.
Oh yeah, did you see that? Did you see that episode?
I watched it. It was hilarious, and it was right on the nose. It was perfect, because that's exactly what's happening, and this is fucking proof of it. I honestly would not be surprised if the people at Disney actually watched that episode of South Park and went, "Shit, we better rewrite Blade because we're fucked here." Because like how you can actually put Blade as a 4th lead in his own movie is, and I tweeted this out, and I genuinely believe it. I said that is the most shocking news I've heard all year. Blade, the 4th lead in his own movie, is fucking bonkers, bro. And the same thing with Daredevil. Apparently, Feige went on to the set of the show. They had like 5 episodes finished. Daredevil hadn't even put on the fucking suit in the first 5 episodes out of 18, and Feige was just like, "Fuck this, you're gone. Everyone's gone. We're rewriting it. We're redoing everything." I'm like, hallelujah. Like, finally, they're kind of waking up, maybe. But I just hope it's not too little too late,
Right. It's just, to me, it's kind of tough because I think Disney's roots are embedded in like animated series or animated shows, animated movies. I would 100% be okay with if they just stop all the live action and just go animated, because I think it would suit so much better for this kind of situation. I think like when you're saying go back to basics in my mind are literally just animated shows, animated movies. Because clearly like they need to take a step back and see what the difference is between being able to like visually see Spider-Man swing from from building to building to get to the next destination, fight Mobius because he's trying to like steal some shit, run into Blade because Blade is like going after any vampires that are nearby, run into Punisher because Punisher is like making sure to kill all the crime bosses, but Spider-Man like doesn't want him to kill, running into Daredevil because Daredevil does like, all these things where like there's episodic moments where like you'll have a string of just Spider-Man, and that's great. But then you see like Spider-Man run into Daredevil because Daredevil lives within the same like region, basically.
Oh yeah.
Running into like the connection between all of the heroes is there. Like you'll have Iron Man running into Hulk because he needed to get him for something. Like the leader's attacking New York, and so like the Hulk is one of the main people that understands, the leader the most. Yeah. So like goes to get him. Hulk is like, leave me the fuck alone kind of situation. Thor shows up because he knows his brother has like come into Manhattan and is like starting to cause mayhem like in between the buildings, basically just kind of like trying to start his own organization or starting chaos within it. So then like you see Iron Man show up because he's like, shit's going on within the systems, like what the fuck. And so like you have the two work together, and it's like all these moments where like you can really create stories just based on the fact that you have these characters available in the area, or that they just happen to visit the area. Like it's organic that way, because like that's how Marvel works. It's an organic, it's moving, it's constantly like changing. And because of that, like that's why it's so exciting when you see like different characters show up. That's why Infinity Wars and End Time was so good, was because there was a reason for them to show up. And yeah, like with Wakanda Forever, like there may or may not be a reason for them to show up, but make a reason. By all means, we need Avengers. We need a couple Avengers on this. This is fucking crazy. The fuck are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Andre mentioned the Variety post. Did you see it? Do you know what he's talking about?
Variety Tea Time? No.
So Variety basically put out an article there during the week and kind of exposed a lot of what was going on in Marvel. Apparently, you know, Disney had their, or like Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and stuff had their, they do like a weekly or a yearly kind of retreat where they go and kind of discuss the next couple coming year and stuff. And apparently they know that there's a lot of shit going on. They know that they're in trouble, and you know, they're potentially talking about taking steps with regards to not so much recasting Kang, but with all of the stuff that Jonathan Majors is going through. I think the idea on the table is that they're actually going to bin the Kang storyline altogether and move forward with Doctor Doom, and then it would like kind of be more comic accurate when leading into the likes of Secret Wars and stuff, where Doom is the main bad. And then they're talking about potentially doing an Avengers movie with the original cast, like somehow resurrecting and bringing back RDJ. And RDJ has said that he's on board. We've known about it for years that, you know, he is coming back at some point, which is, again, the reason why they're turning Armor Wars into a movie. That's the rumor that RDJ is coming back for that. You know, there's talks of Scarlett Johansson coming back. I would say if you've got RDJ, you're probably going to get Chris Evans. Chris Evans has signed on for some other projects, probably Nomad or something of the sort. So again, I would not be surprised if they do actually do an Avengers movie with the original cast. What do you think about all this?
It still sounds like a lot of like garbage that they're trying to sort through, and I don't think it's going to be executed perfectly.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be very much a lot of kinks and bumps along the way. If they can stick the landing, that'd be great. But other than that, like the fact that they're removing Kang and putting in Doctor Doom sounds plausible, but at the same time, if you don't establish Doom beforehand, there's no reason to even care about Doom showing up. I don't care if Doom shows up. Like, I love Doom. I'm a huge fan of Doctor Doom. Doom has been in, like, Doom is actually also associated with Hulk. Hulk, like, he's fucked with Hulk before, which you know me. I'm a big fan of Hulk. So like, anybody who messes with Hulk is a favorite of mine, because like it's, you know, it's a great matchup.
Yeah.
So like, if you don't do anything to kind of showcase who Doom is and what he's all about, and just kind of throw him in because you're panicking due to this like case situation with Jonathan Majors, which, by the way, it sounds like from what I've been reading, it really is confusing, because it sounds like he's not wrong, like he's not in the wrong.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are saying he is in the wrong. It's just being interpreted differently. It's so hard to tell. It really is. But because of all the controversy that's going on, it's turning again into the same situation as if Chadwick Boseman died again. Why can't you just recast Kang? I don't understand why you can't just recast him.
Well, like, you know, it's a valid point, because, and I know Ant-Man kind of showed a lot, like multiple variants of Kang, and they all look like Jonathan Majors, but you know, there's versions of Spider-Man out there, different variants that are different actors and different ages and all that sort of stuff. And
right,
you know, Spider-Man in like the animated universe is a pig, and you know, he's a black kid, and he's, you know, he's like old and young and black and white and all this stuff.
No, like, you got that all wrong, Finto. When you said black kid, that's Miles. That's a different character.
You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
No,
they're using the Spider-Man character.
But that is Spider-Man.
I know. Look, you know what I mean.
I know you love Spider-Man, dude. Just don't.
You know what I'm saying. I
think of Miles on this.
I think of Miles as Spider-Man. He's not Peter Parker, obviously, but he's Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? That's the point I'm making.
But there's also Spider-Kid, Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl. There's all these different spiders. So like, you know, I'm just saying, don't smudge Miles, man. That bro's good.
I love Miles. Miles is better than Peter. Facts.
Well, Peter hasn't unlocked his full potential yet, because he's always holding back.
True.
He's always holding back. Like, if you've ever seen like a comic where he doesn't hold back, he almost kills a villain. It's fucking scary.
I suppose it's kind of like Andrews mentions in No Way Home. He's kind of like, I stopped pulling my punches, and you just be like, oh fuck, I'd love to see that. You know what I mean? Because obviously the other Spider-Men pull
It
their punches, so you're only seeing them at whatever.
it turns into Invincible at that point.
Yeah.
Like it really.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's a terrifying concept, obviously. But the point I'm making is, there's multiple different versions of many characters, like Mr. Fantastic, so on. So like, why don't they just do a different Kang? Or if they want to, I don't know, maybe they do Kang Dynasty, and at the end, it's actually Doom that kills Kang, and then you go into Secret Wars with Doom, who's just, you let the whole Kang thing build up, and then Doom just wipes all the Kangs out. You know what I mean? And then it's like, whoa, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean?
But you're saying the one thing that is an atrocious sin in terms of writing. You do not continue the story with and then this happens, because then you're completely smudging out what happened before. There's no like consequence, there's no leading into that moment. It's just well, this happened and then this happened. So like at that point it's like, well, then what the fuck was the point of the previous thing? Someone just shows up and does all that. If Doom shows up organically and you have this, like, Doom is aware that Kang is causing trouble and wants that power, therefore he goes to destroy Kang in the process by working from the shadows. And then the moment you say and then, you have to stop, because you have to think about it. Like, what are the consequences? What drives it? What brings it forward? Like, what can I do to make it so that things just get escalated into like the right direction? It's in terms of writing. Like, I even took classes on this, dude. You don't say and then, and you say therefore, you say because, the consequences, in accordance to this. You say things that really tie things together, because then it will bring it all together into one, like, neatly wrapped package. And this is why Endgame and Infinity War work so well, because with Infinity War, the consequences were all based upon the actions that were performed by the superheroes, not so much the villains. So
Yeah.
Because Gamora was killed by Thanos, it enraged Peter Quill. Therefore, Peter attacks Thanos and causes Thanos to regain his control of the gauntlet. Therefore, like, the Infinity Stone, the Infinity Gauntlet remains in his hand. And because of that, he causes mayhem again, and they lose. It's not, and then this happens. Like, you don't have like the scene and then this happens. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Like, when you can't, that's why I'm saying you can't just go and destroy Kang out of nowhere, or remove Kang because you're afraid of this one character being portrayed by someone who's currently in a court case right now. You just replace them and you continue the story because that's what you want to do. And if you want to throw Doctor Doom into the mix, you have to do it because it happens, not because it happened.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I suppose it's all real world politics and bullshit. It's, do Disney want to just completely cut ties with them altogether and just somehow flip the story, or do they actually write a story to how Doom gets there? You would hope that they don't just magically have Doom take over. It wouldn't make any sense, of course. Ideally, what I would think would happen would be Kang Dynasty, the next Avengers movie, would end with potentially, I think the rumor is that it's going to end kind of like Infinity War, where the Avengers lose, and then they have to kind of regroup and come back in for Endgame, aka Secret Wars, and then they win. But I would like to think that potentially maybe everybody loses, and they lose because Doom comes in and just wipes the board clean altogether. Like, that's how powerful he is. Like, could you imagine if we go through the next like 4 or 5 years leading up to this big battle with Kang, and then all of the current Avengers end up getting wiped out in this big massive battle, and all of the Kangs getting wiped out in this massive battle, and it's all like Doom, and over the next maybe 4 years in projects, we start getting little hints of Doom here and there, and it's kind of like Kingpin being in Echo the whole time, sort of thing. Like, you know, where it's like maybe he's been around the whole time, or maybe there's rumors that the Fantastic Four are actually going to be from a different universe, so maybe he comes with them. He's from a different universe as well. There's an incursion, something happens, you know, along. I'm not saying this all happens tomorrow. This could happen in 4 years' time, but I think if you're going to shift away from Kang altogether, they're probably going to have to do it quicker rather than like let the story actually play out. So I really don't know how it's going to go. I hope he gets acquitted.
You delay the saga. You create the Fantastic Four. You establish Doom. You establish Reed Richards. You work your way up to Secret Wars. You have the Council of Kangs. You have the Council of Reeds, and you have the fucking Council of Dooms. And that creates this gigantic, like, destructive force because you have 3 of the greatest minds fighting each other.
Yeah, possibly. And, you know, with the rumors and the variety stuff talking about like an original Avengers coming back, maybe they put another Avengers movie into the schedule before all of this happens. And then, you know, I don't know, they do a kind of nostalgic kind of throwback to try and bring the fans back, and then go into a new kind of story in hopes that people will be distracted by RDJ and ScarJo and Chris Evans and everybody, and, you know, they kind of shift the narrative in the background and hope that everybody's just looking at the shiny things. You know, I really don't know how they're going to do it. They're gonna have to do something.
Well, that's definitely what they're trying to do. From what you're explaining to me, is that they're like, in case of emergency, press this button, it'll summon the original Avengers, and they'll come back. Which is that's kind of what they do in the comics. Like, every now and then they'll bring in the Avengers once in a while.
Yeah,
but I see what they were trying to do in terms of like branching out and giving more stories like to different characters, because there's way more characters to talk about in the Marvel universe than there ever has been in the DC universe. DC is like 10 to 30K, whereas Marvel is 70. It's like over 70,000 characters. You know, they may not all be superheroes, they may not all be supervillains, but they're apparently known characters. And that's one of the things that I really like about, you know, Marvel and DC, is that they're willing to kind of like branch out, do multiple universes and whatnot. And I don't think that there's a lazy writing in terms of doing multiverses. It's just the way you do it. If you just lazy write it, of course it's going to be bad, because like you can totally just write people back in because you have a multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
When you watched, you know, South Park joining the Pandaverse, like that whole episode really explained everything that's going on right now. In terms of, you know, I can't remember all the characters, but when they swapped Cartman with the other Cartman, it was Cartman. And I didn't care that it was a black woman. It was Cartman. It was 100% Cartman. Nothing changed about that character other than the color of their skin and their height.
Yeah.
And their gender. But it was funny. Like, it was fucking funny.
The PC principal scene was hilarious because, like, the kids are like, he's like, well, what's wrong with that? And the kids are like, but it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Well,
and he's like, yeah, but if you have a problem with black women, blah, 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 and, you know, like, and it's just so
sounds
on
pretty
the point.
Racist. Right?
Yeah, it's like, it's so on the point though. Like, that's the arguments that everybody's having online. You know, people are like, why is Snow White now, you know, a Latina woman? Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. The story's from the 30s. It's a white woman, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, people are like, well, like, you know, if you point out that problem, you're a racist and all. It's like, but no, it's like, you make up a new character.
It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, exactly. Write new people.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like, even they make the mention of like Miles in that episode, and everyone's like, "No, fuck that, Miles Morales."
Miles is his own character.
Yeah, he's his own character with his own development and everything. Like, you know, so it's just so on the fucking point. It's like so on the nose. It's brilliant. It's like, if anybody who's listening to us or watching us hasn't seen that, you got to watch Into the Pandaverse or whatever, or join whatever they call it. But the South Park ripoff of basically Hollywood, what it's doing right now, is so on the nose. It's
fucking
incredible.
Works, dude. Because the whole time, I knew what the alternate universe Cartman was trying to do.
Yeah,
because they're like, I know like your mom can supply us the credit card information. We could buy a bunch of stuff, create the
Yeah,
make the PC, and I'm like, she's gonna fucking play Baldur's Gate 3.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
She doesn't give a shit about anybody.
I know it's
It's
so good.
Cartman.
It's so good. Blakey in the chat. Disney's about to castle his own Hulk.
Oh my god, that would be fucking hilarious.
Oh man.
Do it as a musical. I'd be down.
No, please God, no.
Dude, I'm like, I have a feeling like maybe in the decades to come they'll be like, what if that musical that we did is a joke? What if we could actually do that?
Is this the Rogers musical?
Yeah, the Rogers musical.
I think that is a real thing now, as far as I know.
Is it?
Yeah, I think they've actually
fucking
made
called
it a
it.
real musical. Yeah, you knew that was going to happen. Like, I would have been shocked if that didn't happen. You know?
Dude, I recall we were talking about this, and you're like, no, bro, no, I don't want this. Like,
I wouldn't pay an extortionate amount of money to go see it, but you know, if I was in Disneyland or whatever, and it actually was on and it was affordable, I think I would probably go for the laugh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob, like, you know, they actually had one in Disney. They had the musical.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, you know, if it was extortionate money, I wouldn't pay to go see it. Like, I'm not going to Disneyland for that purpose, but, you know, if it was cheap and it was something I could do while I was there, I wouldn't be opposed.
Oh yeah, I'd be down for that. Like, like if they have showtimes and whatnot, I'll probably see if I could schedule something, take a vacation.
Yeah.
I'm down
Like,
to go.
I don't know, bro. Like, you know, I had COVID just before last Christmas, and I went and rewatched Hawkeye, and I watched it all in one go, like one episode after the other, and I quite liked it on like just a binge, all 6 episodes in a row. And to be honest, like Christmas is coming up again. You know, it's actually scary to think, like, you know, in 5 or 6 weeks, it's gonna be we're gonna be just knocking on Christmas door, and I'll probably rewatch it again, to be honest. And I think it'll make sense to rewatch it again this year because the Echo show's out in January, and like the events of that show are going to lead into the Echo show, so it would actually make sense to do a rewatch of Hawkeye right before that launches. Did you watch the trailer, by the way? Talked about Echo?
No, I haven't had a chance to really take a look at it. Been very busy this week.
The trailer looks fire, bro.
You know, I'm not like, as much as I want to look at the trailers and be interested in whatnot, it's turning into the point where I think that watching a trailer really spoils everything, and therefore like makes it hard for me to want to like continue watching.
Yeah.
That's why I've not seen anything. Like, I didn't watch anything on Loki. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what they were going to be talking about. The only thing that I knew was the stuff that you were telling me, was the Victor Timely stuff, and you know, anything that was happening in between. But it helped because, like, you know, not knowing what's going to happen next is always the best thing about a movie. It's the best thing about like any sort of show.
Of course.
And a lot of the marketers don't seem to understand that anymore, because back then when they did, like, let's do an example. When they did Terminator 2, did you know that the trailer portrayed Robert Patrick's character as the T-1000 to be the good guy?
No, I didn't actually. Again, I wasn't really into trailers and stuff back then. You know, I probably wasn't even allowed to watch Terminator when that movie came out, you know.
Right.
But I don't know, bro. Like, I think, you know, I understand what you're saying, and I think if you're to take something like T2, like that movie, like coming off T1, which was like such an amazing movie in the 80s and everything, I would say they could have released T2, not even shown one frame of it, and it would have been an absolute success no matter what, because people would have just wanted to see it because of how good T1 was. And I would have said that the MCU was in the exact same boat, probably all the way up until Endgame. You know, you could have gone, and this is how, you know, movies like I'm trying to think of like not good movies in phase 1 to 3, like even like Thor 2, for example. Like Thor 2, you know, not a great movie. Even when you go back and rewatch it, it's a difficult one to rewatch in a timeline order.
Dude, you know, honestly, I loved it. I had a great time.
Great.
Watching it.
That's fantastic.
It was dark. It was fun because it was dark. It was like really interesting because it was dark. Like I think most people prefer dark films, but like ever since the ratings within movies had gone so high due to the fact that there was comedy and whatnot with Thor, they've just been like they're spearheading it that way. They're like,
Yeah.
we'll just keep going in that direction because that's what the fans like. And it's like, no, you got to play this out like a roller coaster, dude. You got to,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, like, I did enjoy the movie. It was one of the lower ranked movies, and still is one of the lower ranked movies. But the point I'm trying to make is that movie, if it was released today, would be considered trash, right? Garbage, awful. Back then it made 644 million in the box office, and like today that would be like an absolutely incredible success. But the point is that even a movie that was like down in the bottom of the ranks of phases 1 to 3 still made a shit ton of money. Loads of people just went to see it automatically because it was part of the MCU, and the MCU was just so powerful and so worthy, of everybody's money and time and effort. Now it's kind of like, I feel like they have to maybe show the best parts of these shows to try and sell people to come to it. Because I think a lot of people are checked out. There's not a lot of people watching Loki. There's not a lot of people watching even some of the new movies that come out. Ant-Man was a failure, in my opinion. So was Guardians. A lot of people like Guardians, not me. Wakanda Forever was nowhere near as good as the first one. All this sort of stuff is like building up to the MCU just being damaged as a brand. And I think that they need to now kind of show a lot of juice on the lead up to things in hopes that they'll hype the fan base up to go to the theater to actually see the movie. Like, did you see the shit that they were doing this week and last week with the Marvels?
No.
Like, they were doing like blatant marketing tricks with the lead up to this movie. Like, the movie's out in like 5 days or something. I haven't even booked my tickets yet. I will go see it, but I don't care. You know what I mean? But what they're doing now is like, they're letting stories trickle out that they've changed the ending, and they did a quick rewrite, and they're potentially going to be including something important. There's hints of like maybe X-Men references or something like that. And now in one of the last trailers or TV spots or something like that, they put in a load of original footage of like the Avengers and stuff. So they're trying to kind of rekindles people's like love of the Avengers. Like, they're throwing in like clips of Iron Man and all this shit. And like, none of that's going to be in the movie. Like, none of it, And they even like went as far as putting, and this was very clever, they went as far as using some unused Thanos footage and audio into one of the trailers. So now people are thinking, oh shit, maybe like, there's going to be something where they go to a different world or some shit, because there's like rumors of an incursion happening. So maybe there might be another version of Thanos showing up somewhere. And like, to me, it kind of just feels like it's cheap tricks to try and get people into the theater because they know the movie's going to be shit and it's not going to do any money. It's going to be a fail in the box office. To be honest, if this movie makes 400 million, I'd be shocked. But they're clearly trying to do tricks to get people in their seats by putting all this crap out there.
It's mainly because they ended Miss Marvel on a terrible note. They ended Captain Marvel on a terrible note, from what I understand. And like, Monica Rambeau has not been portrayed enough for me to care. All three of these characters I have absolutely no care for, because they're all portrayed as like weak or like unfulfilled characters. And by weak I mean like just weak story, weak design, like very very underdone, like undercooked characters basically. When we see Endgame and we see like Captain Marvel, it I don't care. Like and like literally everybody hyping up Captain Marvel, like, oh my god, it's one of the strongest. Dude, there's people that are way stronger than Captain Marvel. Like, there's like, it's just that she, like, her character is pretty cool in the comics, and they don't do it justice. And so like, based on the movie, she's a goddamn, like, she's a nobody compared to like all the others. Like, when we saw, Captain America holding Mjolnir and the shield, like, that was like the highlight. Nobody, like, I didn't really hear anybody. Yeah, of course.
Iconic.
Well, and yeah, of course it's iconic, because like they kind of spearheaded that for those reasons. Like, they took everything that was based upon the comics and just placed it in there. But it was built organically. And I say this constantly. I say the word organic because it's like, we saw Steve Rogers move Mjolnir in Avengers 2, in Age of Ultron. We like, it was building up to that point. where he was going to eventually lift it. And
Yeah.
because we saw that in Endgame, it was one of the greatest moments because we saw it earlier and that we had this like notion, the suspicion that Rogers is going to pick up the fucking hammer and be able to.
I never thought it was going to happen like that anyway. Like I'll never forget my reaction when that happened in Endgame. I was sitting beside my missus, like, and I started screaming. I was like, "What?" I could not believe what was happening in front of me. Like, I was like, "Holy shit!" It was just so well done. It's like one of the greatest moments in comic book history, in my opinion, cinematic history, in my opinion. Like, it's mind blowing, and like I love. Have you seen any of like the reaction videos to it and stuff, like the
Oh
theater
yeah, of
reactions?
course. Yeah.
It's so heartwarming for me, man. Like I love it. Like that's kind of just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm around my people when I see shit like that. You know, like it's just oh magic,
Well, yeah, because it
actual cinematic magic.
right because it led into that, and even if you
Yeah.
didn't, even if you were surprised by it, it still led up to that.
Oh no, it made sense, but you didn't see it. I didn't see it coming anyway, and it was just kind of
Yeah,
like, oh my
like
god, they did it. It was like what?
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's better for you because you're like shocked. It's better
yeah,
for me because I knew it was going to happen because
yeah,
I had already seen the hammer come back, and it was slowly being lifted up, and I'm like, that's not Thor. Thor just got knocked down. Like
yeah,
it's Captain America. That's fucking sick. They're just redoing like what they did in the comics, and it worked because he is worthy. Dude's like the most selfless character you'll ever meet. Fucking awesome character. And then you see, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Monica Rambeau, like which we like. Is she Photon? Is that what they're calling her?
yeah. I believe
Okay,
so.
so you know, I get what they were trying to do, but they did it in a way where like it was very short lived.
Yeah,
It was one of those moments where like we got Monica to attain her powers within the hex, and that was it. We kind of saw a little bit of it, and then that was it. And it's like,
mhm.
thanks, I guess. I guess we have a new hero.
Yeah,
And then, Captain Marvel we haven't seen for I feel like it's been a decade now.
yeah,
Um
yeah,
like it could be like a lot younger than that. Like I like but it just feels so long. And then Miss Marvel feels like it's been so long. Like it like there's nothing happening to for me to
yeah,
care about these characters because they're not
it's weird.
showing them anywhere.
Yeah, the connective
And
tissue doesn't exist. Like
it doesn't.
if this was the old MCU, you would have had the Miss Marvel show, and then she would have shown up in a different show, maybe a movie,
Yeah.
and another show, and then she gets her own kind of team up movie. You know what I mean? Like, whereas it's like she had her own show, which was ass, and then we haven't seen her since. And now it's like, when did that show come out? Maybe 2 years ago. Hoffman
Feels
was
like
still on the
3.
podcast,
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah.
2 years ago at least, like, and now it's like we're just gonna literally pick up where that show left off, but 2 years later, IRL.
Yeah.
It's kind of yeah, it is. It's fucked, man. It's weird. Like the whole kind of release schedule timeline. I always kind of felt like the MCU kind of continued and went on with our kind of real timeline. You know what I mean? And then when they just weirdly jumped forward in time at the end of Infinity War, start of Endgame to 2023 to now, like I think it's officially now. The time jump to Endgame, I believe, is October 2023. So like it's past. Like we're actually caught up now to Endgame. But it felt so weird to me why they did it, and now I suppose I kind of understand. I don't think they had intentionally planned this, but I remember around the time of Endgame, someone saying like, oh, well, it actually might be 2023 before we get another Avengers movie. And I remember in 2019 thinking that's bullshit. There's no way that's going to happen. And now it's like, oh shit. Well, like the next Avengers movie might be not for another 3 years. So you're kind of
Right.
like, oh shit. Like imagine saying that in 2019. It might be nearly 10 years before we get another Avengers movie. You would have said, nah, man, you're fucking smoking crack. Like, what are you talking about? There's no
Mhm.
way they're going to wait like 6 or 7 years before doing another Avengers movie. And that's where we are. That's what we're living right now. It's insane.
I mean, let it boil, dude. Let it cook. Like
I don't
just
know.
let
I
it
just feel
sit.
it's not cooking though.
Of course
If
not. They
if
keep pulling everything back. They keep like jumping out the ingredients and trying again.
if the shit was cool, like if what we were building up to was epic, and I think on paper they've like there's some good projects coming down the line. I hope on paper there are, but if they actually do it well, is another thing. You know what I mean? Like Disney,
Mhm.
I don't want to get caught up on talking about. We haven't even talked about Gen V yet. We're nearly an hour into this, so I'm not gonna. But I'm not gonna get dig into this deep. But we know Disney are flopping left and right with all these projects. You know what I mean?
But
Left and right.
the big question is, do they care?
Do they care? Yes, I would say they do. I'd say they do. Maybe not a couple of years ago, but they definitely care now because they are actively making changes and they are actively trying to do stuff to save stuff. Now, 4 years ago, when they had maybe 4 or 5 million more subscribers on Disney Plus than they have today, did they give a shit then? Nah, definitely not. But I think they give a shit now.
Right. Well, it's mainly like I said earlier, like their domain is animation, and
Yeah,
they haven't done animation in the longest of times, other than their their movies with their like their little was it subsidiary companies? I think that's how you pronounce it, like
yeah,
Pixar and Dream.
yeah,
Is Pixar by its Pixar is with Disney.
yeah,
Is DreamWorks with Disney?
yeah. As far as I know. Like I think
I
Disney
just can't
pretty much
remember
owns
them.
so much of it now. But like I think as well, like everybody's blaming Disney for everything, but like Disney just owned Marvel Studios. Like, Disney just owned Lucasfilm, so it's kind of like it's still Lucasfilm really fucking up, but it's just all under the
It,
Disney banner. So Disney get the blame for it, but is it really Disney?
it
You know what
is.
I mean?
It's
You think
100%
so?
Disney. Yes, because if you look at Sony and what Sony's products have been doing, they've been allowing Marvel to put in their 2 cents for any sort of like writing and understanding. So for Across the Spider-Verse, that was a fucking immaculate movie. For Spider-Man 2, I haven't played it yet, but I'm going to play it very soon. I've just been very busy. Um, I heard it's an amazing game. So like it's Spider-Man 1 was an amazing game, and it's with Insomniac. But like the thing is that what Sony understands is like if you just let them do their own thing and don't fuck with them and just let them
Yeah.
continue being their own company, they're going to be just fine. But because
Well,
Disney
I'm just
likes to have full control of things, it
yeah.
changes the game. And so
I'm just
like
I'm just talking cinematic though. Because like if you talk about Sony and cinematic, they're they're terrible. You know what I mean?
well
Like
it's
Venom,
cinematic
awful.
animations. It's the
Yeah,
same thing, dude. Like you so when you watch a like Blizzard presents, World of Warcraft and such, it's not called animation. It's called a cinematic. It's the same fucking thing. It's a movie essentially, a short film.
yeah,
And so when you say Across the Spider-Verse is not a cinematic, you're smudging it because like it's a big fucking film, dude. It's
yeah.
it
But it's
it
I
did
don't
a
think
lot.
they're not treated the same way as the cinematic like actual live action movies are. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot more at stake when you talk about physical cinema that rather than animated productions. Like animated productions and Into the Spider Verse and Across the Spider Verse, these are prime examples of the big wigs going. There's your budget. You take the lead. Do what you got to do. Make the best movie you can. We don't really give a shit, and go and do it. And like Into the Spider Verse, while it was a fucking incredible movie, one of the best comic book movies ever made, it didn't make any money in the box office. It was only after it kind of jumped onto Netflix and lived on Netflix for a year or two and became extremely popular that's where the vibes and the hype and all came for the second one. The first movie didn't actually do that well in the box office. It wasn't like an actual like smash hit for Sony. They were banking on Venom and Venom 2 and fucking Andrew's Spider-Man, and all these movies were fucking shit. Like the best thing that Sony have done live action is the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and they have to share a bit of that with Disney, like which
Which
is
is
which is
fine.
shit. Yeah, no, it's great for us, but it's shit for them, I suppose.
Right. But
A lot of red tape.
allowing the two to work together is the key.
Oh, I 1,000. I wish it was that way. Could you imagine if they gave the same creative control to the likes of Feige and stuff like that with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man? Boom. It'd be incredible. You know what I mean? It'd be amazing. But they just, for some reason, don't do that. There seems to be, and I don't know what it is, but I don't know what the reasoning is behind it. But there seems to be a lot of red tape around live action productions. A lot
Well,
more red tape than
because
there is in games and in animation.
it's just like you said a moment ago that they kind of like for animated like cinematics, they tend to be given their money and told like do what you will with it.
Yeah.
And like it people love it. Like the fans love it. But I can understand what you're saying is that it doesn't make enough money. But if they were to do the exact same thing and allow that for live action, what do you think will happen? Do you think it'll happen the same way they do with the animated series like shows and whatnot, or do you think it's just gonna flop? And so like that's my question to you, Finto, is like it as much as you tell me that like Disney has no part of this, it really feels like it does because there's so much of this like hold on, hold still, stop this, don't do this kind of situation. Like they changed posters for different regions for like the what was it, the Last Jedi, or I forgot what the fucking, is it the Last Jedi? No,
It was Force Awakens with
episode,
John Boyega, is it? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Where
it
they
was
made it
Force
real
Awakens.
small for China?
Right. They got rid of blood because they want to make sure that the kids can watch it. And it's like kids kids have seen blood. Like I've seen blood when I was a kid. Like it's no big deal.
Yeah,
Like it's only when you see it as a horror film that's a problem. But like people bleed. Like it's a reality. That's something that
yeah,
like but if it's like gore, I get that. Don't you don't have to do gore. You could
yeah,
just kind of like kind of make it appealing to both audiences. But because it's Disney, it's this whole appeal to kids. And I know you feel it too, dude. Like it's this whole appeal to the younger generation when like this whole time that we've been doing for the live action, in my opinion, the whole time we've been doing for the live action, it's been trying to appeal to the adults for most of the movies.
yeah,
And then after Endgame, they were like, well, now we got to start up a new generation. Let's get the kids in on this.
yeah, yeah. Like the way I look at it is like it's how greedy do like the companies want to be. Disney and Star Wars, they really want to hit the Chinese market, and unfortunately, we live in a world where you can't have a black man on a poster and in that part of the world. So they have to like shrink him down and put him behind something else and hide him basically, which is disgusting and disgraceful. But
Yeah.
like this happened only recently with the Spider-Man 2 game. They took out a lot of the homosexual stuff in the game so that they could release it in the Middle East. Like Insomniac did that.
It's
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's it's fucked up as well. But
it is.
again, it's that's greed because they're like, shit, we need to hit this region. We need to change our game so that it's suitable for that region. Could they have said, fuck yous, we're not changing our game. If you want to live in the Stone Age, you're not going to have this game. Like that's the high road to take. But again, how much money do they want to make? And obviously they want to make a lot of money, so they change the game and take side missions out and take down all the pride flags in the game and everything like that, and then release a different version of it in
Well,
a different part of the world.
and to be fair, Insomniac doesn't pump out games like Call of Duty. Like they
No.
don't pump out games like on a yearly basis. So for projects like that, you've really got to make all your money. So for that, I understand. For video games, it's a bit easier, but for
Mhm.
movies, I feel like that's a very discriminative kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that the pride flags and stuff shouldn't be there in the Middle East. It's just like it's a different ball game in that sense, and like I hate it, but it's like one of those things where like, well, the developers got to feed their kids too, so like it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
It
really
is.
hard.
Do you know what's funny? I 100% at that game. I got the platinum trophy, and I didn't see one pride flag in the game. And I
So
don't know
weird.
if it's just obviously I don't look out for them, so I'm sure they were there,
Why the
but
hell not? I'm just
I
kidding.
just, it's just, I'm oblivious to it. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't even enter my mind. It's not something that I care enough about to think about. You know what I mean?
All you care about is the fucking game.
I
Is
want
the
to play
game, the
Spider-Man.
story, and what's happening. That's it.
100%. Yeah, I want a web swing around New York. I'm not
Yeah.
looking at the tiny little details. Hang on a second. What's that fifth flag on the right there hanging? Who the fuck cares? You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's
Right.
just beat up the
And
bad guys.
and 100% for those of you listening, we're not saying that we don't care about the flag. We were saying we just care about the game.
Exactly. Like I don't care that it's there. It doesn't bother me that it's there.
Right. But
It's
if
just
it's there,
there.
that's
Yeah,
cool. That's cool if
it's
it's
just there.
there. But
Yeah,
but if as long as you're not pandering to me,
exactly. Yeah,
that's exactly the point. Don't pander to me. Let me play my game. Let me watch my movie. Let me just do shit that I want to do.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And again, to just rope back into Loki real quick before we move on because we're over an hour here. So I want to talk about Gen V and then I want to go to bed. But what are your predictions? Next week we have the finale of Loki. What do you think is going to happen?
none of the Deadpool stuff happens, and I'm happy because of that, because I'd rather this just be burned to the ground as nothing and they just restart the TVA in Deadpool.
Okay, they just restarted.
I just want them to restart TVA and Deadpool. I don't care that Loki was there. I want this to be an entire project that didn't matter.
Hmm.
Because like this is now a point where I'm at like where I'm like dissociate with everything Marvel, because I don't care what you did. I don't care about Sylvie. I don't ever want to see her again because you've written her to be one of the worst characters that I've ever seen. Um, like if we see Owen Wilson again as Mobius, I would love that. If we see Tom Hiddleston later on as Loki, I would love that. Um, if we see, Renslayer again, if we see B5, cool, but I don't care. If we see Ouroboros, that's kind of fun. But like, other than that, this is the one show that I'm like, you can make this non-canon if for all I care.
Yeah. So there's a rumor going around that by the end of the show, Loki's going to be the new He Who Remains.
Yep. And I've already counted on that, because it's like he's the only one who's literally running the show now.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
to
think
be
he'll just
completely
time slip to the end of time and just have to sit there by himself and just kind of police everything, sit and watch the the branches and make sure they don't break.
who knows? Like it could be
I'd
that.
actually be really sad if that happened, to be honest, because I love Loki and I would love him to be reintroduced into the timeline somehow. Like, my hope for the show is that we end where it's like, the mission is complete, the TVA is safe, and as far as Loki's concerned, his job is done, and then it's like, okay, now I can go back and be with my brother and stuff, and then maybe we get Chris Evans showing up and it's like, Loki, you're alive, what the fuck? And then boom, Thor 5. And then, like, we have Loki back in the MCU. That's what I want.
Honestly, what I want is for Ouroboros to be He Who Remains, because
Just call
he's
him OB, bro. It's so much easier. OB, baby.
That's an for me. I want him to be He Who Remains, because he fits so well into that kind of pocket, and you could just pull another of him out and put him into the TVA as a different OB. Do Mobius, do someone other than Loki. I don't care. Or make it Loki, but make Loki change things within the timeline so that his variant lives. And then you have that Loki. Because that's the whole point of this multiverse thing. You don't have to have a single entity show, like stay in one spot. Excuse me. You don't have to have like a single entity stay in one spot. You can have multiples of them. You can do whatever you want with them. It's just the lazy writing behind it that only makes it so that, we only go to one timeline at one given point, and we only see one variant of this character. And so like when they try to do that in Quantumania, where you saw the whole council of things, that could be nothing. That could be a whole lot of nothing. And just show that, and then just show the main people like Immortus, and like the other characters. I can't remember all of them, but like all the Kane variants that mattered weren't out in the area just going. They're the ones that are hiding in the shadows that have like apparently the biggest brain, which to me is a cop out, because it's like you have so many variants. You can't have just these 4 or 5 people being the biggest brain. You have fucking infinite. Just I would love it for it to be a similar thing to like when you saw in Ron Burgundy, where they had this big fight between all the different news teams.
Fantastic.
And then you see
Anchorman into this.
well, yeah, because like you see Brick, why are you holding a grenade? It's like why can't you just have crazy shit happen? Yeah, he killed the guy. Like but that's the thing, is I want it to be that crazy. I would love for it to be that crazy.
Yeah, something you just said has just really resonated with me there, and my mind is going wild as you're talking. But I like the idea of Loki being the He Who Remains at the end of time, but the fact that he becomes the all powerful or whatever, and he can just kind of re-inject himself back into the timeline or whatever and change things. One of the long kind of rumors has been that the Loki of our time, wink wink, the one that died in Infinity War to the hands of Thanos, there's always been a kind of rumor or like, inkling that maybe that was an illusion. And in Loki season 1, the old Loki or classic Loki does mention, he's
Mhm.
like, I did an illusion so grand that it tricked the Mad Titan himself. And you're kind of like, shit, it is true. Like, there's definitely what happened. Because like I only rewatched Infinity War recently, and it's like Loki goes to stab him with his left hand instead of his right, and he's right-handed, not left-handed, and it's kind of like a mirror of what he was trying to do. Like, so I think that genuinely, yes, this is an illusion, and I think that version of Loki is still alive. But what if now they make that theory true by this version of Loki potentially going back, maybe whispering to that version of Loki, listen, mate, you're gonna die. You need to pull off an illusion here. Blah blah blah. Thanos is coming,
Right.
and then that
Yeah.
changes the course of what we now know to be, the true timeline or whatever. And then that version of Loki that we think is dead is actually still alive. That
Right.
would be
And
fire, bro, because then we have two versions of Loki. We have the one that we've loved and followed and has had his redemption arc, become the good guy. He's still around and he goes and
right.
finds Thor, and then they continue their story. And then maybe you can jump back to the end of time and have this version that we followed in the show. And if people love him, great. If people don't, who cares? But then they have that guy in there too. Yeah,
Right.
that'd be
But
perfect.
yeah, it would definitely be perfect because then you instill chaos. Because if you
Yeah,
think about it, like being able to manipulate things within because you're at the end of time is the most chaotic thing that you can do, especially for the trickster god.
of course.
So
And it
I
just
would
makes
love,
it makes the whole show worthy and worthwhile
yeah,
watching as well. Because imagine if we get to the end of this show and something like that does happen where Loki does change his own fate. Everyone who loved it, Infinity War is going to want to go back and watch this show now because it's like, hang on a second, a different version of Loki, that past version that we saw in Endgame, is going to actually change time and save himself. That'll be
yeah,
epic.
yeah. That would
Exactly
be
what they
that.
need.
Yeah, I would love that.
Feige, I hope you're listening, bro. Get rewriting, dude. We just did your job for you. um, okay. On that note, Gen V, let's go. Episode 7 and the finale, episode 8. Talk to me. What do we
um,
think?
I don't think there was anything wrong. I think it was just that was awesome.
It
Like I
was.
don't know what else to say. That was awesome.
It was fucking fantastic. I really loved it.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble differentiating what happened in episode 7 and what happened in episode 8, but I suppose maybe just talk about it as a collective show maybe now, just rather than trying to break down little pieces in episode 7 and 8. I love the whole storyline of I can't think of her name. You're one who ran the school, like trying to create an airborne virus and letting that go live, and she's trying to kill all the
Oh,
soups and stuff. That shit was fucking wild to me. I was like, hell yeah, like that shit
yeah.
is amazing. Um, sorry, just Rob just came into the chat. I've never seen it. Should I watch it? You probably
Yeah.
shouldn't be listening to us right now if you're planning on watching it,
Yeah.
because we're talking
If
about
you
the end of the show. But yes, it's fantastic, Rob. If you like the boys, which I know you do, you're gonna love this fucking show.
right. And for spoiler reasons, Rob, if you don't want to listen anymore, we totally understand. But if you want to stick around, just listen to what we have to say about it, like by all means. We love people that watch and just, give us their perspective on the spoilers.
Yeah, and sorry, before I go back to my point here, I did read this comment from Blakey and I choose to ignore it. It says
So
for anybody
apparently
who's listening.
Blakey,
Yeah,
yeah, Blakey fell asleep during Endgame and hasn't bothered to rewatch it.
I have a Discord, and in my Discord we have a Marvelous Chat section. So if anybody's listening and want to join it, do so, please. We have a lot of fun over there all week long. But a conversation happened there last week where a few people were talking about how they hadn't seen Infinity War and they hadn't seen Endgame. And these people I thought were big Marvel fans, and I was shocked by it. Blakey was one of them. Blakey was saying that he fell asleep during Endgame and he never rewatched it. I'm like, are you insane? Like, this is the end of like a 10-year run in cinema. Like, I just don't understand. And maybe this is just because, I am who I am and I'm the biggest, like, I'm a big nerd, but I could not watch all of these movies and not watch how that arc
How it
ends.
ends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
insane, dude. It's insane. And then, like, if you're watching stuff that came after it, would you not be like, what's going on? Like, so I'm just
Right.
like, it just makes no sense to me. Like, it's a massive gap. But basically, yeah, sorry, let's get back into Gen V. Damn you, Blakey. But yeah, look, the show is fucking fantastic. As I was saying, I love the idea of them trying to create a virus that kills soups and then just unleashing it on the world. And to me, because I had heard a couple of weeks ago that they were the way that they were writing these shows was that Gen V season 1 was going to end, and it was going to kind of like do a handhold into the boys season 4. Then season
Right.
4 of the boys was going to happen, and that was going to handhold it to Gen V season 2. And that excites me. Obviously, I love connective tissue in projects. It feels great when you've got these shows that are all linked together in one big world. And
Mhm.
Gen V are doing, and the boys are doing this in a fantastic way. But basically, yeah, like the fact that they had that, like the second this story started developing itself, I was thinking to myself, fuck, what's the likes of Homelander going to think of this? Because it's like, if there's a airborne virus that's going to be unleashed on the world that could potentially just wipe out all of like Homelander's friends and his enemies and all this sort of shit, you would think that that's going to be a massive like global event. And then obviously, spoiler alert, but in the finale, Homelander comes down onto the campus, like, and you were just like, I saw him coming in, I was like, holy shit, he's here. And there's a reason why Homelander's in the thumbnail for this episode. It's because, yes, he did show up, and it was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what did you think of the finale? Like, I really like Kate's character. I hate the way they spell her name, by the way. Like, Cate really annoys me. Like, oh, in this side of the world, it's Kate, and I'm like, ugh,
I've seen
that
a
annoys me.
ton. I've seen a ton of different ways to spell it. Like I know a Kate that's Kait.
Yeah, I
So
know
I
that.
mean,
It's
it
like
just
short for Caitlin, I suppose.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's like a choose your own poison kind of situation. But
I know. I just
um,
saw I saw CATE on one of the guy's phone, and I was just like, ugh, it just annoyed
right.
me.
So Kate's character is great.
Yeah.
I think that it works really well for that character, especially because it almost seems like she was going for the role of a villain. Like
Mm,
she really wanted to be a superhero, but like in the end, it kind of like turns into a villainous kind of situation.
yeah.
Um, and it works out really well, especially for the way the finale for with Marie. And I knew Marie was going to do exactly what Nadia has been doing, which is like accidentally explode someone, and it was their hand, which kind of
That was
fucked because
so.
like she
That was
still got
so.
one more hand,
Yeah.
so she could still work. It's just
We know
it's kind
she's
of fucked.
we know she's wireless as well, but like, I think she does have the most power when she touches somebody. So the
Right.
fact that Marie blew her hand up, yeah, it's very like kind of crippling for that character. It gets fucked up, like it's brilliant. But um, I really loved how they kind of built up the Kate story. Hats off to you. You kind of figured out very early on what was going on with her character. You predicted it very early on. Those episodes are there if you want to go back and listen to them. Wink, wink. But uh, but basically, yeah, like you copped on straight away what was going on, and then I liked how there was that kind of unknown, and then we went into a kind of redemption arc, and you kind of felt sorry for her as you kind of learned her origin and stuff like that, and then they just flip it again, and they turn her into a full blown villain. Like, she's like leader of the
Yeah.
pack going around. It's like, let's fucking kill anybody who's not a soup. It's like kind of like, holy shit. So like, she has all these crazy different like changes in her character and development, and it's just a roller coaster ride, and it's fucking fantastic. And then Marie's character, I loved that we found out again. I'm terrible with names on the show, but the girl who was in The Boys who was blowing people's heads up. We
Yeah,
find out
her name's Nadia.
Nadia, yeah. So we find out that Marie has the same powers as Nadia. So obviously Marie's gonna get to a stage where she will be able to blow people's heads up if she wants.
Oh yeah.
And very scary to know that, obviously, but I loved how they linked that back in with the boys, and like kind of shared those powers, and that they knew each other. And because it wasn't there a moment in Gen V where they're like, oh, she has a sponsor or something like that, she can't be touched, and then
Yeah.
you're kind of like, who the fuck is that? And then we obviously find out that it's her, because they share the same power, which was fucking
Right.
great. Yeah, just fantastic. I don't know how I really feel. I loved the character of Sam kind of going up until the last episode. I think he kind of dropped off a little bit. He kind of, I don't know.
Well, he was tortured so much, dude. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't know. Like his brain has regressed to like almost out of a child. Like I will just follow whoever it is that I think is
yeah,
like in the right.
yeah.
And as much as I care for these people, like my brain is too primitive now. Like all I want to do is just be on the side that is willing to take care of me and not like make me feel like I'm a freak, basically. And
Yeah,
so that's how Sam feels at the end of it, because like he even tries to get what's her name? God, I forgot her name. The one that can like grow and shrink.
Emma.
Um, Emma. Like
Yeah,
they like he tells her like you're a fucking fake. All you wanted was like friends and whatnot. And it's like, damn, that's pretty fucked. Like, yeah, at first, like we were thinking that, but I think after a while, she was just like, I just want to help. Like I felt like she was kind of like that person at the end of it. Like she didn't care about the fame. She just wanted to help people at that point.
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah,
found out that her powers work if she cries.
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
I love it,
unhappy
man.
feelings.
I
So I
love
think
it.
it
Yeah.
has to do with her like emotions. So if
Yeah.
she's in like a heightened state of like, you know, the whole like when you eat foods, you kind of like hit that point in your head, like it kind of like
Dopamine hits
releases.
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you're feeling like this whole like euphoria.
Mhm.
And I think that's what causes her to grow. So like maybe if she tries to feel moments of excitement, she can grow. So she no longer has to like become like, you know, throw up because she used to think that, you know, actually expelling the food will make her smaller.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that was a great way to kind of showcase how her power actually works normally. It just she had to figure out how to do it.
Exactly.
Um
Yeah. I thought that, and she wasn't the only character that happened with in the show as well. I thought it was very, very well done over a short period of time that we saw so much kind of progression of each of these characters and how they've
yeah.
all learned their powers and developed into different people, which is really cool.
Well,
It's so well done, bro.
yeah, I agree. And then the worst is Andre. I feel so bad for Andre, man. Like he can't use
Yeah.
it. He either uses his power to an insane amount and kills himself because he gets an aneurysm, or
Mhm.
like, you know, he gets a stroke, and
Yeah.
or like, or he just doesn't use his powers ever again and just, you know, becomes like durable. That's it, or
Yeah, it's a rough
invincible.
one as well because like he's number one, or well, after the death of Golden Boy, he's ranked number one in the school, so he's like the most powerful. But at the same time, now he's probably the weakest if you think about it. Because
Yeah.
like it's weird because at the start of the show, I thought the ranking would be a lot more prevalent to the storyline than it is now. Like it's kind of I don't even think this is the first time I'm thinking about the rankings in weeks. Like it just became like such a backstory. But you know, it's like you know, like the whole ranking system now is just out the window. Like you know,
Well,
it's completely irrelevant. Like
no, it's still relevant because it's just as you said, dude. Like he was number one
yeah.
after Golden Boy. And now like after all this, like he can't even use his powers anymore if he doesn't want to die.
Did you notice like his finger started twitching when he was doing one of the powers?
Oh
Did you
yeah.
notice that towards the end? And like
Yeah.
that's him. Like you know, I thought that was very well done as to show like how much in strain his body is just even using his powers.
Well, and the doctors were telling him too, is like, have you been feeling this and that? And he's
Did you
like,
ever get
no,
did you ever get lightheaded? He's like, doesn't everybody?
doesn't everybody? Like, no,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that was like such a oh shit moment. Yeah,
It's so fucked, but like it works. It's just so fucking good. Like, because,
yeah,
you know, Andre at first I thought wasn't going to be a likable character because he might have been just like this meathead or something that was like, fucking fuck is going on here? I don't give a shit kind of situation.
yeah,
And then Marie almost kind of turned that way too because she was like, I just want to see my family. And then it turns out like her family hates her.
yeah,
Um, and it's just this whole like turnaround. Like the story just works so well. Like they figured out each character. They wrote the story for each character well enough. It came full circle, and it like because eventually, you know, she did what she didn't. She did what she wasn't trying to do, which is like blow someone up by accident. Um, and it worked out. And then I love the scene because like Homelander shows up, and then all of a sudden it's like, is he's not going to help. He's not going to help Marie. Like
oh yeah,
you could already tell on his face, like he's like, "The fuck are you like?" And when he said,
yeah.
"What are you doing?" It's like,
Yeah, like and the fear in her eyes. Like she said, "What do you mean?" It's like you attack one of your own. It was such a great scene because like he comes down and you would think like he's there to save the day, but actually it's like no, he's like you are the villains. I'm here to scoop you up and put you away. And then like
right,
we cut to the end of the show and it's all them in a padded cell with no windows or doors, and it's like shit. Where do they go from there? Like, I presume they're in like the basement of the seven tower or something like, but yeah, it's just cool, bro. Because like the way I kind of think of it is like I presume that they'll be part of season 4 of The Boys, and it's going to like perfectly kind of hand over. Because I would say what's probably going to happen next is that virus is going to unleash itself on the world,
mhm,
and maybe you know the likes of Homelander and the Seven need to go to the Gen V crew to be like, tell us everything you know, and then they might have to help them out. You know?
right.
Yeah, and
And,
again,
well,
to talk about Soldier Boy as well, like very clever how they brought him in, and it was just a great little cameo by him. It was fantastic.
mhm.
Loved it. Yeah,
Well, I can't remember exactly what happens in the comics for the boys, but I know that the eventually we're gonna get an ending. And I don't want to say too much because I have read ahead a little bit.
yeah. No, I really don't want
It's
to know, to be
Yeah,
honest.
but all I know is that like I think you'll like it. I think you'll like
Yeah,
this next season coming up. It's gonna do a pretty good job. Um, Especially if they're doing exactly like similar things to like what they did in the comics. It's not one to one because it's I understand in most cases it's really hard to do a one to one for certain things, but
yeah,
I mean, like I was even talking to Katie about this. I said some of the greatest films and movies and shows like were done well because they followed the book.
of course. I like it blows my mind all the time. It's like, why are DC not just following the source material? It is incredible. Why are Marvel not just doing like source material from the likes of now? I know there's again red tape and real world stuff in for Marvel because they sold off so many of the properties and stuff, but you know, there's been talks of like an MCU reboot now, and to be honest, now I think it probably makes sense more than ever because let whatever happens happen next, and then we get a new Earth, and we can just reboot all these characters. You can get Steve Rogers back. You can do all this and just recast everybody and just start again. And then you've got all the properties back, so you can do Fantastic Four, and you can do Civil War properly, and you can do Doom correctly, and do the next Secret Wars will be done just like the Hickman comics and or whatever which way you want to do it. Like there's a lot to be said for it. But I say this, I've been saying this for years about DC. Like it's like some of their animated movies, even just turn an animated movie exact same line for line, frame for frame, just convert it from animation into live action, and it would be a blockbuster smash.
Well,
I just don't understand it. It
well,
makes no
well,
sense
even
to me.
then, but even then, like you've seen Invincible, right? So like if you were to actually like go back and look at the trivia for Invincible, they even tell you what what was not like the exact same frame. They'll let you know, like if you like, I like go watch Invincible season 1 from the beginning, and just leave the trivia on,
Yeah.
and it'll tell you in the trivia this scene was actually done later, but they wanted to do it here.
Hmm.
This scene actually doesn't happen until like comic number this or issue number this. So
Yeah.
like they're still following the source material. It's just like they kind of moved it around a little bit, probably to work with the story a little bit better, or maybe like
Yeah.
convey a bit more on the emotions for some things. But like it works out.
Yeah.
So
I
like
didn't. I didn't get a chance to watch the new Invincible, so we can talk. We can talk about it next week. We were an hour and a half into the podcast now. We're probably going to be ending in the next few minutes, but like next week we're only going to have Loki, and then we can talk about Invincible as well. So it kind of works out perfectly, I think. To be honest.
uh, dude, no, like we're gonna be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen. You're jumping in on that train.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We myself and Alex watched Jujutsu Kaisen Zero last night, and it was good. It was good. I definitely prefer Demon Slayer. Like it'd be more my vibe, but I feel like I could come to like the show. Like towards the end of it, you're getting introduced to loads of cool characters, which I presume are probably going to be all in the series. This is a
Of
prequel
course.
to season one, so yeah, I'm down to give it a go, 100%. I just don't know if I'm going to love it, but we'll see. I'm
I
going in
think
open minded.
right. I think at the moment you just because you watch the movie has a different vibe compared to the show.
Yeah,
So because it's a prequel, it's based upon a different character.
yeah,
And they're important later. Um, but for now, like it's just to kind of establish that this happened before the events of the actual show.
yeah,
Which it will matter later. I
yeah,
promise you. Like it's canon. So everything that's been going on so far in terms of the show, it's all already written in the manga. Like it's practically one to one.
hmm
Like every scene that you see, even in Demon Slayer, when you watch Demon Slayer, the reason why it was so good is because it's one to one.
yeah,
They took the panels, they brought them to life, and that's what they did for Jujutsu Kaisen. They took the panels and they brought them to life. And I'll tell you this, man, like every time Katie and I had watched like Loki, we're like, all right, now that we're done with Loki and we're done being depressed, let's go watch Jujutsu Kaisen because that's amazing.
yeah,
Because every time we watched Loki, it was a well, I guess this is gonna happen, or well, I guess this is gonna happen, or well, oh, why? Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah,
When it came to Jujutsu Kaisen, literally, she and I are talking like, what the fuck does that mean? What the
yeah,
fuck does that mean? Like, it's
yeah,
literally like, what the fuck was that? Why did this happen? Like, it's literally making me question things because it's so fucking interesting. And the choreography is so fucking good. The most recent episode was just straight fire, and it was literal fire because there's fire involved in that episode
nice.
as well. But like, it's fucking mind blowing. And even like, if you were to go on TikTok and you've like followed stuff for like all this kind of anime and stuff,
Yeah,
people are fucking having their mind blown by this because there's some people who have read the manga and they're constantly saying in the comments, "You like season 2, right? You ready to feel depressed?" And I'm like, "Oh man, like I don't like because
yeah,
I'll tell you, like I'm not trying to spoil it for you, man, but I'll tell you this: some of the characters that I really like, I hope they're still alive
yeah.
because shit has gone down." And I love the show because of that.
Epic.
Because characters that I can care about may die.
I've heard a lot of people talking about how Jujutsu Kaisen is their favorite show, like their favorite anime. So it's got high praise from a lot of people. So I'm definitely going to give it its fair shot. But as I said, and I have said before, I'm not a massive anime fan. So, but I'm a big Demon Slayer fan. So, maybe I'm coming
That's
around to it.
but that's good. I'm happy that you found something that you can appreciate for anime. But
Yeah.
even if you hadn't, dude, I'm just happy that you tried.
Yeah. No, I'm always open to give stuff a go. Um, it's funny because I don't like Star Trek, and my girlfriend absolutely loves Star Trek. Like it's her favorite thing. Like as much as I love
Yeah.
Star Wars, she loves Star Trek. So it's just funny because like she always like, oh, you'd love it if you tried it. You'd love it if you tried it. And she watches it so often that I've actually seen so much of it just from sitting in the room with her that like she'd be like, oh, watch this bit, it's great, and I'll be like, I've seen it before. That's how much I've actually seen, and it's the same with like Big Bang Theory. I hate Big Bang Theory, which I know probably sounds crazy to a lot of people. It's like those are your people. How do you not like the show? But I just feel that they're all just really unlikable characters, and
No,
I don't like the show. I hate it.
no, Big Bang Theory is not our people, dude. That's
Agreed.
no.
That's
It's
what
there.
I think. I think that too. But a lot of people be like,
Those
"Oh, well, they're nerds and they're geeks and they're comic book freaks, and do you not want to watch that?"
what
Is
is
that
it?
to
Did
you?
you find a rhyme? They're nerds, they're geeks, they're comic book freaks.
I'm just spit. I'm spitting. I'm spitting fire, bro. Spitting bars. No, but
I
seriously, like
know.
it's like I don't know. Like I hate that. I hate everybody on that show. But you know what's very funny? Like I hate Sheldon, right? Like I don't like his portrayal as like an adult. Like he annoys me. But I love the young Sheldon show. I love him as a kid, and probably because I have a young kid who's kind of like Sheldon. So I suppose I gravitate towards it that way. But I don't know. I hate him as an adult, but I love him as a child.
The,
So it's
the,
it's it's weird. It's two different shows, in my
well,
opinion. Two very different
the
shows.
the way I see it, dude, like for sitcoms, like the old style of comedy back then was to put laugh tracks because
Of course, yeah.
the people didn't know. Like some people may not know when to laugh at certain
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
but like if
Laugh
you
now.
need a yeah,
You know?
if you need a laugh track for something, then something's
It's not
wrong with
funny.
the
Yeah.
show. Yeah, except for Married with Children, I fucking love that show. Like
Do you know what's funny? Well, like when I was younger, I never really heard the laughing tracks, if that makes sense. Because I would be laughing with the show.
yeah,
It's like kind of like it's there, but you never really notice it. And I was like, not until I went back and rewatched some stuff as an adult and was like, it's like the first one that I can think of off the top of my head was Friends, for example. Like when I watched Friends when it was new, like when I was a kid watching it, like I never heard the laughing track. And I would always find it funny the first time I watched it. Like I love Joey and Chandler and all these people. And when I went back and I'd obviously as an adult kind of watching it with it through different eyes and hearing the laughing track, and I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of annoying. In certain parts where I think like, I don't find that part funny anymore, but now like
right.
I'm not physically laughing, so I'm hearing the laughing track and I'm like, okay, that's annoying. So it's like, it's every 20 seconds in Friends or 15 seconds in Friends, the laughing track goes off and you're kind of just like, okay. But I love
Right.
the
Well,
show so much, like I will rewatch
I
it all the time. But
I well, I feel so much about that in terms of like SNL. SNL works perfectly with a laugh track because like literally they're in front of a live audience. So it's like
yeah,
if they're laughing, that makes sense. But if it's so much that it feels like it's just laugh tracks, then you're not
yeah,
going to really enjoy the show. Like is SNL has some great skits.
yeah.
One of my favorite skits was like the steak cutting thing with like Pedro Pascal. I'm pretty sure you saw that one where this lady was like trying to cut the steak. and she's
Man,
going in, and the
SNL.
table's just fucking rocking, and Pedro Pascal's losing it.
Do you know what's funny, right? Because like SNL is not a thing over here. It doesn't
Really?
it doesn't translate over here at all. And honestly, I find it to be the cringiest thing ever. I don't find it funny at all. Like there's been maybe a couple of skits that have made it kind of global, like some of the Will Ferrell ones from back in the day, like the more cowbell shit and all, and some of the Andy Samberg stuff from back in the day. But
Oh yeah.
honestly, like I was in New York before, and one of the nights that we were there, we were sitting and chilling with some family and friends, and they threw on SNL, and I was just like, "This is fucking terrible. It's not even funny. Like it's awful." And they're all laughing because it's all kind of it's American, like you know what I mean. Like they're poking fun at politics and all this stuff that I don't understand, obviously, because I'm not
Yeah.
living in that world. So, but like I'm just like this comedy is not good, guys. I'm sorry, like it's not, and I props to the people who do it because I know it is a stage show, it's a live performance, and like that's impressive. But the comedy's not good. You know what I mean? It's just
Well,
not funny.
well, like honestly, dude, I can agree with you on that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not saying it's all gold. I'm
yeah,
saying that any of the scenes that I've seen where the actors break, like
yeah,
they're breaking character,
yeah.
that's my those are my favorite moments, is
I
when
can
they break
watch
character.
I can watch clips of like Bill Hader like slipping and laughing and stuff, and that's funny. But it's not meant to be there, like and it's only kind of funny
Right.
because it is. So that's not really praise in SNL. That's kind of just laughing at the mistakes that they're making. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Right.
really praising the writing of the show. It's kind of just like, okay, it's kind of funny. But I'm laughing because Bill Hader's breaking character. Like.
Yeah, but like that's how funny the joke is to him, is like
I know.
it's so
And look,
goddamn
if
funny.
you were there, if you were in the show, like and acting and trying to pull off these lines, and you've got like your friends dressed up as fucking people who are in the news or whatever the relevance is of the reference that they're making. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's hilarious to all them who are making it. It's just it doesn't translate worldwide like other comedy does. Is
Right.
really it. Like
Well, I find it, like, in terms of breaking character, I find it akin to when you see multiple comics in the same room, like just roasting each other.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's the best moment ever. Like when you get two people that are absolutely good at like doing observational comedy or talking about other people in the room. It's like it's so like genius, because it's like they're not trying to make you feel bad. It's just that moment, like that's what they think is odd about you.
yeah,
Um
yeah,
and like one of the prime examples was like, I think God, I forgot. I think it's like Jimmy Garofalo. Yeah, it's probably the wrong name. It's basically like Bill Burr and like this other guy, and they were talking, and it's literally this back and forth of them. Like all Bill was trying to do was like move the act, and he's like, it's like fuck you, Bill. Like it turns into that kind of situation, and it just the comedy went like insane. So that's
yeah,
how I see it. I really like when like people tend to like poke fun at each other, or like put or like try to break character, try to cause other people to break character, because
yeah,
that's kind of what you see, especially with like Steve Carell. Steve Carell is awesome, and Will Ferrell is awesome at that. Like they will do their
yeah.
damnedest to get you to break character.
Yeah, like the likes of like Will Ferrell, like he is a like comedic genius, like so he's got great timing and everything like that, and he's just always on no matter what. Like you'll hear. I saw a clip of him where he was in like My City only a few weeks ago, and there's there's this like ice cream chain called Geno's, and they do
Mhm.
like all gelato and stuff like that, and like fancy ice creams and waffles and pancakes and all this sort of stuff, like and there's a clip of like Will Ferrell where he's in like one of the biggest like tourist spots in Dublin called Temple Bar. I brought Clint there when he was over here, but like he's standing in the street and there's like a pop up like Geno's, and like Will Ferrell just being himself, like just being the funny guy that he is, like he's like talking and he's like shouting over the counter. He's like, "Are you Gino?" Like, and it's like the most stupid thing. That's like saying like to somebody like "Are you like the Colonel?" Like if you were in a KFC or something, like it's like some
Right.
like it's a franchise. Like it's like he's like, "Are you Gino? Fantastic ice cream and all." Like everyone's just dying laughing around him, but like that's just him being himself. That's Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell.
Exactly.
Like, and it's just so funny. Like it's just how he thinks of stuff like that, like to be like screaming over the counter, "Are you Gino?" Like it's just so stupid, dude. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious, bro. It's hilarious.
It's very much like in Eastbound and Down, where like they were doing multiple takes of this one shot, where it's Craig Robinson and Danny McBride like doing a stare down, And you see Will Ferrell's character is like, ooh, this is getting me so high right now. I could feel it in my plums. And
Yeah.
like,
yeah, you can tell that was all improv as well. Like, there's no way,
right?
There's no way that was written in the script. Like, there's no fucking way. Dude. I gotta rewatch Eastbound and Down, man. I haven't seen it in a long time. I fucking love it so much.
So
That was
good.
that was a show as well where, like, I think it was 4. Was it 4 or 5 seasons? I think it was 4. But like, they were all just gold. Gold.
The series finale for that was the fucking craziest, but it ended the way I figured it should, is like just this crazy book that he wrote.
Yeah. I genuinely thought he would have died or something, like, because he was just like
Well,
partied so hard and everything, and it was just
that's how they made it look at the end. Remember, like he gets either he gets shot and killed or something. He was like fighting aliens, and then like
so fucking stupid, dude. It's so fucking stupid. I'm trying to think, was there any other nerdy news from the week just before we go?
Just in terms of anime news, Attack on Titan finally finished the anime.
Cool. I hear I've never watched it, but I hear it's fantastic as well.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that for the finale, like the majority of people who read the manga and actually like read the finale, they apparently hated it. And yeah, they didn't. They apparently some of the characters, like, they made different changes of heart in the sense, or they changed the way that their demeanor was near the end of the series. And after watching the anime and like then going by like the differences, it's like I don't really see that much of a difference, and I think it ended really well. Like I think the conveyance from the anime kind of like cemented that feeling of like this is why they did it this way.
Yeah.
And so like they added a few things and maybe they omitted a couple things as well. But the way it ends, it's fucking sad, dude, but it's so good. It's like just the way they did the animations for it as well, and like all the shit that was going on, like it was just it's crazy. I don't want to say too much because maybe one day you'll be like, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
I definitely will. I definitely will give it a shot. It's one of those ones where I feel like, it could turn out to be a Demon Slayer for me, where it's epic,
Yeah.
And or maybe I don't know, maybe it won't be. I'm down to give it a go though, for sure. Just before we head off as well, Rob, earlier on in this series, in the episode, we were talking about Gen V. Rob goes, fuck it. He was listening to us. He goes, I'm throwing it on now. And now he's like, this fucking episode.
That's how long we've been on.
Bro, Rob, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Amazon sent me an invite, so I got to see the first 2 episodes of the show on the big screen in the theater. And that scene with the tiny girl where she's like hanging off the dick, I had to watch that. I had to watch that on like a 90-foot screen. So that was like the biggest dick that has ever existed.
The biggest dick in your face.
The biggest dick ever, I think. Honestly, like that could be the biggest dick ever. Like, if you think about it, because like there's no way a dick has been shown that erect and that big, like right in your face, ever on the big screen before. I genuinely think there's a Guinness World Record fucking claim there.
Okay, yeah. I just want to say, great. If we were on Twitch right now, I'd be like, can you clip that?
Yeah. You can clip on YouTube, by the way. There is a clip button. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is. There totally is.
Clip. Yeah, that would really help if people would start clipping stuff, because it'll just make it easier for me to do short form content, because I can go in and just grab all the clips. But anyway, look, we can
record that.
We can look at this in the future episodes of the show, guys. We're gonna end the stream here for the week. Big shout out to everybody who was here live. Anyone who's listening to us on a replay or watching us on a replay, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think of all the content. We'll be back next week for Loki finale, and we'll start the Invincible breakdowns, because I loved the first season of Invincible, so I'm dying to get back into it. Yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure, and enjoy your week, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Later, everyone.